Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. Alongside the czar of the playbook, it's Emory Hunt and Tyler Merkovich, and we're fresh out the film room breaking down the offensive guard position for the 2010 draft. Some college prospects you need to watch. I got your top 10 list here, and we're going to start out with a Big 12 guard, Kurtis Gregory, in the Missouri offense. We know he could pass block, but is he a road grader? Is he versatile enough to make it in the NFL as a good guard?
I think so. One thing that I like about him, he uses his hands real well. So with that case, the run game is all about drive, leg drive, and hand placement. And he uses his hands well. He gets him inside the shoulder pads of the opposing defender, so he can really clear out some lanes, especially in the zone block scheme. I like him as a guard. He's 6'5", 305, a little bit light for a guard, but that means he can also be athletic enough to probably move out to a tackle in some cases. But he can also, he's a real good guard. I think he's a good guard prospect.
Well, at number 9, you have a guy that you'll see make a lot of penalties, but the potential is through the roof for Orlando Franklin of Miami, the U.
One thing, as a true freshman, he had a lot of playing time, so that's pretty impressive to go down to Miami and play early as a true freshman. He's 6'7", 334, big guard. You know, another guy that can get his hands where they need to be, and he really drives. Like the sled practice he uses at practice, that really helps out in the game because Orlando Franklin is a really good player. He's going to be an awesome guard in the NFL.
He'll be a road grader for that stable of backs they always have at the U. Number 8, Stephen Schilling of Michigan.
One thing about Stephen Schilling, in the true Michigan fashion, he's a big guy. He's tall. He's 6'6", 305. One thing, he has to shake the injury bug. He was hurt last season. But if he can get that bug out the way, I think he's going to be fine. He's a little bit lighter for a guard as well, too. But I like his nastiness. He can play guard as well at the next level.
Michigan's nickname Lineman U. That's what it should be. Going all the way back in the day. Steve Hutchinson, one of their best. Jansen, all those guys. Jake Long. Joe Thomas, Wisconsin. We're not talking about Joe Thomas, Wisconsin, of Pittsburgh. Tell me a little more about this guy. A lot of people haven't heard of.
Very versatile lineman. Dave Wannstedt does recruit a lot of good offensive linemen that can play all positions. This is another guy in that mode. He's a real good guard, 6'5", 300 pounds. One thing I like about him, his ability to move on traps and pulls and sweeps. Athletic, can move around throughout the offensive line. He's a real good blocker. He's going to make some NFL team a real happy camper because this guy brings intelligence to the game and he can play multiple positions.
USC, ridiculous. Very experienced offensive line coming into the year. Watch out for the Trojans' offensive line. All-American last year. The guard, Jeff Byars, break down his game.
Yeah, Jeff Byars is a real good guy. He's 6'4", 285. So he's a little bit lighter for a guard. One thing I like about him, he can play center, too. So that's another key thing. He's athletic enough and versatile enough to play center. Third-team All-American, so you know the talent is there. He's going to get into the right system. He's going to be a phenomenal player for some team years to come.
At number 5, another high-powered offense. They don't run the ball too much. A little bit sometimes. Brandon Carter of Texas Tech.
Think Leonard Davis, 6'7", 340, can also play tackle, either tackle spots, but he's settled down as a guard. This guy is a really big blocker, big guy, road grader. He can get there and clear some lanes out. He's going to be a phenomenal player this season as well as he was last season. And this guy also can, he can drop back and pass block as well too. For a big guy, he's really nimble on his feet. I like him. He's very athletic. That's why he's so high on my list. This guy is a really good playmaker. He could shoot up draft boards after the season into the offseason.
Really needs to anchor that offensive line after the losses of Rylan Reed and Luis Vasquez. Interior, it's Brandon Carter's job to keep their new quarterback clean. And number 4, Alabama, they lose Antoine Caldwell, they lose Andre Smith, 2 draft picks, but Mike Johnson, you're saying, needs to step up for the Crimson Tide and Nick Saban.
Right, because he played left tackle, so they slide him down to a guard spot, so that way he could take advantage of his athleticism and his playmaking ability, and also his smartness. When you take a left tackle and move him inside the guard, they understand angles, they get a good body position on players, and they're able to, make clear out holes. You look at a guy that was a former left tackle that's now found his home at guard, Robert Gallery, the top overall pick for the Raiders a while back. Found a home at guard is becoming a really good player. He could be a Pro Bowl player this year. So I like the move from left tackle to guard. This is a guy that's going to do well in the SEC. He's going to help clear out some lanes for those stable of running backs they have down there in Bama. but I think he's going to be fine. I like him as a prospect.
And number 3, an all-ACC player, Rodney Hudson. You know, Florida State has had those young offensive lines. Hudson needs to be their experienced guy to lead those young guys and lead the rest of them.
One thing you're going to get when you get a Florida State offensive lineman, particularly guard and center, you're going to get an athlete. You're going to get a guy that's a tremendous asset to your offensive line because they're smart players and they understand angles. So this is the total. He's a total package. This guy's a second-team All-American, really good guy. He was also, you know, all ACC. Somebody that can play center as well too, and both guard spots. So you look at with one player, you can knock out 3 picks because this guy's very talented. He's going to get some more All-American votes this season. He should be a first-team All-American. I like him coming out of Tallahassee.
Well, another ACC player that'll have the enjoyment of blocking for the most explosive player in college football, C.J. Spiller, and that's Thomas Austin, the guard for the Tigers of Clemson. Talk about him.
Well, Thomas Austin, his middle name must be Agility because he is really agile for a big guy, 6'6", 315, and he also can pass block. You have to be able to pass block in that offense out there in Clemson, but he's a really good player. He has a mean streak. He can drive block as well as he can also, you know, his intelligence is unquestioned. He can read the double team real well, so he's able to sift out those stunts and different mismatches to try to throw it at his way. But he's a really good player. I like him. He's going to make big things happen this year for Clemson. He might be the #1 guard later on this year, but as of right now, he's number 2.
Needs to step up for the loss of Barry Richardson, and of course, they're going to rely heavily on that run game. So the offensive line needs to step up. Thomas Austin leads the way. A bunch of ACC players drafted last year, and your third, you got 3 ACC players in the top 3, and we're going to go to Virginia Tech. Sergio Render is your #1 player.
You can't go wrong with a Virginia Tech offensive lineman. You know they're going to be outstanding run blockers. You know, Frank Beamer loves to run the ball. They have a real good running back that they broke in last year. So this guy, 6'3", 319. He's an excellent drive blocker. Climb to the next level with ease. He can handle a double team. He's another smart player on that offensive line. He's nasty and he stays healthy, which is key for interior linemen. So he's a really good player. He is the unquestioned #1 player coming out this year. He could have came into the draft last year and been one of the top players in the draft. He's that type of athlete. I really like. He's gonna look for him to take home a lot of hardware in the offseason.
The hands-down favorite to win the ACC, Virginia Tech. Ed Wong and Render will form one of the toughest left side of the line in the country.
Yes, sir.
It'll be very interesting. And now you got a sleeper from an up-and-coming program that Skip Holtz has rising. The Panthers of ECU. Talk about Doug Palmer.
Well, you look at Doug Palmer. You know he does real well. He's 6'3", 300 pounds. Plays a really good. You know, he has a real solid game for the Pirates down there, East Carolina. His question is off the field. He was suspended for the spring. If he can get everything going on in a positive way outside of football, it's a dynamite player. This guy is a really good athlete. When you see him on sweeps and traps and guards and pulls and combo blocks, he's off the charts. He's a really good athlete, a really big player for East Carolina. And if he can get the off the field issues cleared away, he's gonna fly up the draft boards.
We'll be blocking for one of my favorite quarterbacks, Patrick Pinckney. Will be interesting to see USA to see this guy move, and we know it best. For more college football prospects for the 2010 draft, visit footballgameplan.com/draft.